Welcome to Business Innovators Radio, featuring industry influencers and trendsetters sharing proven strategies to help you build a better life right now.
Hello and welcome to another special edition of Women's History Month, #Choose to Challenge. I'm Lawana Bradford, visionary and co-founder of Celebrate You, Women Embracing Wellness. And I am so excited today because I have another amazing woman who is making a difference, making her mark in the world. And that is none other than Gloria Grace Rand. Gloria, how are you doing today?
I am doing fabulous. What's not to like? It's March, you know? Spring is coming. So,
it's coming. I can feel it.
Yeah.
Well, Gloria, why don't you, before we get deep into this conversation about Women's History Month and #Choose to Challenge, why don't you tell us a little bit about you and what do you have going on?
Oh, I would be delighted to do so. Let's see the short version, because I've been around the block a few times. So I've had a lot of different careers in a way. From long time ago, television producer. My background was in television. I worked for the Nightly Business Report on public television for many years, but for the last 10 plus years, I've actually been a business owner, and I have been helping small businesses with their online messaging and really helping them to create content for their websites that will enable them to attract their ideal clients, and then so being able to help them with blog articles and all of that goes along with online marketing. And also, for the last couple of years, though, I have really been on my own spiritual journey. I've been really delving into personal development work on myself, and now wanting to actually help others in that area. And in fact, I just actually had my first book published. I've been in other compilation books, but this is the first book that I have totally written on my own. It's right behind me there. It's called Live, Love, Engage: How to Stop Doubting Yourself and Start Being Yourself. And this was something that I had to learn for myself. And but it's been a wonderful journey and a blessing. And I am really enjoying being able to do interviews like this. Speaking is definitely something that I've been doing ever since I started my business, pretty much, even though considering that I was always considered myself an introvert and didn't like to speak in public. In fact, when I worked in television, I wanted to be behind the scenes. I did not want to be in front of the camera. And yet there's always been this part of me that really does want to be in the limelight. And so I'm embracing that now. And I see myself now as an author or speaker, and like to think a change maker. I really want to make a positive difference in people's lives, especially women in particular, and women who've gone through some sort of trauma, because that's what I experienced as a kid, growing up with an alcoholic dad and a mom who could be abusive at times. So, but I've overcome that, and I've forgiven them because they did the best they can. And as a parent myself, I know it isn't easy. So it's all good, and I'm here today, and that's all that matters.
I love that. I love the story and your transparency. Thank you so much for sharing that. Can you bring your book a little forward so everyone can see it?
Oh, sure. Oops, have to get it in the camera frame. There we go. Oh, and I've learned you have to tilt it.
So live, love.
When you're promoting something on camera, you tilt it so the light doesn't glare.
I love that.
Yeah.
Isn't it amazing how when we go through our own journey of discovery and awareness, that we are able to take that lesson and package it in very unique ways to share it with the world? And that's what you're doing with your authorship, with your speaking. And
yeah, absolutely. I mean, my intention with this now, that it was so funny. Last year, I was really struggling with what to do in my business. I wasn't sure how to promote it. And it was because I needed to get the book done. And now that I have the book done, it's like, oh, okay, well, now I can teach a course from this. Now I can run a coaching program. I can do more speaking. In fact, I'm going to be speaking next month, and I'm doing a little bit different talk, but it's still incorporating the material that I talk about in the book, which again it's about really learning how to love yourself and how to really be true to who you are as a child of God, because I am spiritual, not necessarily religious, but I definitely believe that we all have a divine spark in us, and we need to honor that and show it in the world, because that's what we need more of right now. We need more people loving each other and not hating each other.
I love that, and you're so in line with the foundational principles of Celebrate You, and you've heard us always say it's about loving yourself and embracing yourself. And when you can celebrate all of who you are, the good, the bad, the ugly, the indifferent, then that's when you can start to make radical shifts and changes to be the change you want to be in the world, to be that light, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's for sure. So, and I love the name of your group. And I thought it was so funny. Every year at the beginning of the year, people will say, well, what's your word of the year? What's your word of the year? Well, mine actually was celebrate. So I was, when you offered me the opportunity to join your group, I'm like, well, yes, absolutely. I definitely want to celebrate with y'all.
Yeah. See how the universe just aligns things.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about Women's History Month. Why, for you, is it important for us as women to celebrate the shoulders we stand on, but also celebrate one another as we journey through life?
Well, for one thing, I love that we have a Women's History Month, and in a way, it's kind of sad that we have to have a Women's History Month, just like it's, disappointing that we have to have a Black History Month as well. But it is a reality that we've gotten the short shrift, is that the right word? I'm not sure, in the history books in general, and that women's accomplishments have not necessarily been celebrated. And it is wonderful to be able to really appreciate how many women through history have done so many amazing things, but maybe not so many people know about it. And so to be able to spend some time and being able to highlight the wonderful accomplishments in so many different fields, from scientific fields to politics to art, so many different things. I mean, I still was really amazed at the movie a few years ago that came out that talked about, what was it, Hidden Figures, I think was the name of it, the women who were involved in the space program. I had no idea that, especially, way back at the beginning of the space program, and the impact that they had in these brilliant minds. And so to be able to appreciate women, and it's important for us also to acknowledge each other too, I think is so important, because sometimes we are too quick to doubt ourselves and to not really feel that we have the qualifications maybe as men do. And when we can see other women doing something and say, wow, she did that. Well, maybe I can do this thing. I might not necessarily want to do that. Maybe my talent isn't in mathematics. Maybe my talent is music. But because she is out there doing something, then it gives me courage. And I think it's so wonderful to inspire younger women out there, to be able to have them be able to do even more things than, like our mothers and our grandmothers. They didn't have as many benefits as we did even, and now our children and grandchildren are certainly having even more benefits, hopefully, than we've had.
Right. And, I was thinking about something you said when you gave the example of Hidden Figures, and whether we call it, those individuals who are unsung. And whether we want to acknowledge or not, we are in a male-dominated society. In fact, the world overall is. And so when you look at who has written the history books,
right,
it's easy to see why we were not included, because it wasn't their lane, it wasn't their life. So when you look at from the lens in which they were writing, it makes sense. It's unfortunate that a lot has been hidden. A lot of our history has been lost. And I think it is, as you said, so important for us to uncover and to celebrate and to teach those that are coming up. Right?
Absolutely. Yeah, that they can aspire to whatever they want. And really the only limitation, it could be possibly physical, but maybe not even that, because now there are women football players out there. Where
I know.
I'm sure my mother thought that's crazy. No, how on earth could women ever even play football? But if you are determined, why not? Go for
Exactly. So let's talk about the hashtag choose to challenge. When you heard that for the first time, what resonated with you, and what do you want to tell the listening audience about choosing to challenge?
Well, it's a powerful phrase, and because the choosing, number one, is so important. It's we all have the capacity, that's part of what we have as human beings, that we have this free will to choose, to be able to decide for ourselves what is it that we want to do. And then challenging, choosing to challenge, it really, I'm thinking it's about challenging the status quo and being brave enough to say, this hasn't worked, or this isn't working right now, and let's see if we can't come up with something better. So it's in particular, I guess it could be, choosing to challenge the male patriarchal type of society that we live in, and saying that women have a voice and we deserve to be heard. And let's not just say that, let's go back to the good old days. You hear that so often. Well, the good old days, there is no good old days. Okay, there was somebody who benefited, sure, in the past, but then there were also lots of people who didn't benefit in the past. So what we need to do is just figure out, how do we want to live right now? And if that requires challenging preconceived notions or the ideas of things that the way they were done in the past, well, that was okay. That's the way we've always done it. No, let's you have the ability to challenge that. I mean, if we didn't challenge it, we would have never had people like, any person who was first at doing something, even starting from, the first man on the moon. Neil Armstrong would have never walked on the moon if we hadn't challenged the idea that, we'll never be able to go to the moon. Or, the first woman doing anything, and any type of person, whatever the first is, you've got to be able to, and again, I'm thinking, now it's like men are coming into mind, but it's like, what was it? Roger Bannister, I think, was the person who broke the 4-minute mile, 2-minute mile, whatever it was,
4-minute mile.
Yeah. So he challenged that notion and believed he could do it, and he did it. And so that's, I guess that in a sense, that's really what it means for me. It's just deciding what is it that you want to do, and don't let whatever the way it's been done before necessarily decide that that's how you have to do it now. You can challenge that notion, and you can do it a different way.
Speaking of challenging the notion, 100 years ago, 101 years ago to be exact, women challenged the notion that only men were allowed to vote in this country. And the UK, believe it or not, got their right to vote. Women earned their right to vote 2 years prior to the US.
Right.
But that was white women who earned their right to vote in 1920 here in the US. But what most people don't realize is you had African American, you had Asian American, and you had Indian, Native American women who were supporting the entire suffrage effort. And when I was really surprised, I knew when, African Americans had the right to vote with the Voting Rights Act, but I didn't realize that your Asian Americans, it was 1954, and your Native Americans, it was in the 80s, where the laws, the anti-discrimination laws, were written off the books in the 80s. So. Yeah, we've come a long way, but we still have a ways to go.
Yeah, For sure.
When we think about that and what it means when we're voting, and again, not getting into the political conversation, but it's our voice. We're exercising our voice. What would you like to say to our audience about that and being confident in your own expression?
Well, I'll tell you a story. I just remember I grew up in Michigan, in the Detroit area, and in the 60s, 70s. So I am a baby boomer. And what I remember about my first experience with voting was going with my mom into the voting booth. And this was where you would have the curtain and we had a machine and you would have the levers that you would have to pull to be able to exercise your voting for whatever candidate you were doing. And my mom, she really instilled in me the importance of voting. And she voted every time, even in those local elections that, people think don't matter. And, they get the smallest amount of attention, but are almost more important even than the national elections, because that's really what governs your local community. So I vote. I vote every time. Sometimes I don't always like the candidate choices I have, but they're the candidate choices we have, and we have to make an educated decision. And so I would encourage everyone, as we have seen in this country, certainly in the last, 20, 30 years now, every single vote matters. And you may not always like the results, and you may not like even, how things turn out, but it's still so important to have your voice counted. And it's our duty to be able to do that. Now, am I always fully informed, especially about like judges? No, I'll admit that right now. I don't like voting for judges, but it's still, it's our right. And frankly, I think it's our duty to be able to go out and vote. And it's a privilege. And it really is a privilege. And I would just love it if they would make it easier for us all to be able to vote, rather than sometimes making it more challenging. So that's my opinion.
Well, before we run out of time, I'd like you to spend the last few moments to talk about the one woman who you know personally who has inspired and influenced your life, and then leave the audience with a lasting thought, as well as how to contact you.
I'd be happy to. Yeah, there's been a lot of women who have inspired me, but I have to say that the one woman, even though I already mentioned my mom, but another young woman who has inspired me is the woman that I raised, and she is my daughter. And she inspires me all the time because she has, she's not only intelligent, but she really is willing to do what she wants. And she is really able to, I wouldn't say she's fearless, but she is very courageous in a lot of different ways. She knows what she wants and she goes for it. And that impresses me, because I grew up in fear. And so it's been harder for me to be able to do the things always that I like to do. And I've gotten now learning how to do that, but it is so important. And I just am amazed with her. She has a business degree, and she's now gone on to be a web designer. She decided last year, actually, that she was going to spend the year living in Europe, traveling around to different countries. And unfortunately, she had to come home for a little while because of the pandemic, but she's actually back in Europe now, and she's living in Hungary. That's where my grandparents are from, and she's got a wonderful boyfriend, and she's doing very well. But she has just always been willing to try things, willing to do new things, and willing to step out of her comfort zone. And I'm just very proud of her for that. As a proud mom, but she inspires me. So, and she's taught me a lot about business. If anyone does want to reach me to find out more about what I do, you can reach me at my website, which is gloriarand.com. And of course, I'm on Facebook. If you go at Gloria Grace Rand, you'll find me on Facebook or LinkedIn and just about every social media platform out there, except for TikTok and Snapchat. I don't do those.
Well, Gloria, this has been amazing. Thank you so very much for your time, for sharing your story, and congratulations to you again on your book. This is exciting. A lot of great things you have in store. So we look forward to hearing more about your upcoming coaching and programs that you have. And for those that are listening, please reach out to Gloria Grace Rand. She's provided her contact information. And can you share the book again? Get the book. You can get it on, is it Amazon?
Amazon and Barnes & Noble websites. So you can go there. And if you want, you can even just go to my website and that'll have a link that'll take you to Amazon or Barnes & Noble, whichever you want. There you go. Thank you again,
Perfect. Okay, Live, Love, Engage by Gloria Grace Rand. Thank you so much again. And thank you for being a part of Women's History Month. #Choose to Challenge. Ladies, we encourage you to always continue to reach and be the best self that you can be. Stay in your lane, reach for your dreams, and don't be afraid to choose to challenge. And as we always say and celebrate you, love yourself, embrace yourself, and whatever you do, always celebrate you. Goodbye.
Thanks for listening to Business Innovators Radio. To hear all episodes featuring leading industry influencers and trendsetters, visit us online at businessinnovatorsradio.com today.